First round robin is complete.
All right.
We are through the first set of games the 100 Thieves will play. And now we are officially entering into a state of pseudo mourning. Illustrated by Jordan symbolically shaving the beard off. It's kind of like the playoff beards that hockey players grow.
Yeah.
It's like once things are all over, you just shave it off, and
you keep the hope. It's called the hopes and dreams beard, and well, here we are.
So what does that tell you, folks?
Actually, no. This is just my spring look. This is the spring trim.
The chipper Jordan.
Yeah, March is here.
It'll be back refreshed. To full 4 or 5 times more full than mine by next week for sure.
Oh, we'll have to see.
Well, we got some things to take care of on the pod tonight. Some things to talk about. Let us, before it gets too heavy. Well, 9 Inch Nails already made it kind of heavy, but before it gets even heavier, let us acknowledge Rip It Energy Fuel for powering what we do here. I've got another F-bomb. This feels appropriate time to drop an F-bomb.
I agree.
And Elgato for providing our lighting and streaming capture equipment. And just for being great friends, great pals, friends of the streamer world. They are really awesome.
They're so friendly.
They are. Well, thanks to them. I'm not excited about the conversation tonight, but it's a conversation we got to have. Here's what we're going to do. We're not going to focus on the games this week. This is both a function of Super Week with 3 games and the fact that this seems more appropriate to talk about things as a whole right now. So we're going to just make some quick observations from each of the games and then get right to the meat of the conversation, which will, explore fun topics that everybody definitely wants to be talking about halfway through the spring split and do some listener takes, all that good stuff. So I would normally say, we got a fun show for you today.
All right.
Not sure I can promise a fun show.
It'll at least be interesting, Cole.
It will. Well, I guess we should do it then.
Okay.
TSM was the first game of the week, and Jordan, boy howdy, we started off with a win.
Yeah.
And
what's their current record?
Their current record is 1-8. 1-8. Is it 1-8? Did they get a second win in there? I know they're in 10th place. They're for sure. They're 1-8.
It's not good for them.
They're 1-8. Gosh, who is the one? Who is the one? Was it CLG?
Yeah, I think so. No, CLG beat them. Famously.
It was probably Team Liquid. You know how these things go.
Yeah. I want to say it was another team at the time who bottom of the standings.
Yeah. Well, they beat each other up. Anyway, it doesn't matter. This isn't Talk TSM. Nope. Observations from the TSM game. They suck. They really suck.
Yeah.
We got our first look at Abbedagge Ari.
Mm-hmm.
Actually looked pretty good. I mean,
yeah.
I wasn't sure what was going to happen with that pick. I've seen us hover it before.
Mm-hmm. It's meta. It's
meta. And it looked good in this game, man.
Yeah.
It was not like the cleanest game, but we had a Ssumday carry situation as we got used to. We got Tryndamere into Gwen, and Tryndamere slicing and dicing, making things happen, as Pacer Time would say. We had more top lane ganks, great top lane ganks from Closer and Ssumday.
Yep.
They actually had an early game gold lead. We pulled it back. A lot of gank attempts from both sides here.
Huhi had a pretty good game.
Jordan, yeah, I was not going to get through this without you bringing up.
It was. He had a better than you would think stat line of 0-5.
0-5-0.
0-5-0.
Better than it seemed.
Yeah. It sounds worse on paper than it was.
One more time for the people in the back. Jordan just doesn't get it. He's tried.
I don't get it. And then stuff like this happens, and I'm like, I'm looking around the room. Anybody else noticing this?
Just me?
They, Cole, we're feeling a bit subdued. Whew. TSM, they have some things to work.
At least we're not TSM, right?
Yeah.
At least we're not TSM. But yeah, I thought the game was a little back and forth early. Made me a little nervous, but really good macro out of the team in the second half of the game. Combined with some excellent team fighting, especially from Abbedagge. You go watch Abbedagge split pushes, does his duty, and then pops off in team fights. It looked good. That was the end of the good news this weekend.
Ooh.
Now, for C9, I don't have anything else to say about TSM. Just boom, played well. Macro looked good, like I said. That's about it. It's TSM. They're 1-8.
I might also say TSM is one of those teams. And I don't know if you know any of these other teams like this, but it seems where you look at the names and you're like, those are some pretty impressive players. I'm not sure why they are turning in a performance like this. It's confusing to me. I don't know. It feels like there's another team I saw recently that was kind of similar, but I can't place it.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. Doesn't ring a bell for me.
Okay, well, we can go to C9.
Yeah, MVP Spica, right? How's he doing?
Yeah, I mean, he's not great so far as the record goes.
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't think he's likely to get MVP this split.
No, I don't think it's looking likely either. Okay, now that we've had our fun to make ourselves feel better by picking on
helpful
the old bully. Now we got to talk about the C9 game. Now here's all I want to say about C9. This is all I want to say about them, but it's going to take me a long time to say it.
Okay. All right, I'm prepared. I'm ready. I'm settled in here.
This loss was not as bad as it seemed. It really wasn't. And I was listening to some other podcasts that shall be unnamed, and people really chalked this up as like a destruction of Under T. It was like, oh, C9 soundly defeated them. And it's kind of true, but it's also kind of not. We had really bad luck in this game. You have those games where like you can just feel it. It's like, well, nothing is going to break for us in the right direction. And this was one of those games. I actually wanted to show a few clips, Jordan, if you don't mind.
Please.
That highlight just some of the mistakes we made. Now, these are situations where it could have easily done something different in the end, but we just barely screwed it up, right? By making a dumb decision.
And before you roll the clips, can I ask you, sometimes things just happen in a way that is truly unlucky. Are you suggesting that some of these things were out of our hands, or are you suggesting that these are mistakes we made that were compounded in a pretty significant way?
I think that it's a combination of both. There were some mistakes that were really poorly timed, and then there were some very close, like almost plays that ended up being very disastrous for us because they didn't work out. And if they do work out, we're in a much different situation. So this was like kind of a harbinger of what was going to happen, because like the wheels totally fell off by Sunday. And honestly, I've played games, not just League of Legends games, but Rocket League games. I've played Valorant games. It's just like this, where things just don't go your way, and it's just not your day. Let's look at a couple of these clips really quick. And I'm sorry for the audio listeners. We'll try and make this quick and do the best we can there.
We'll do play by play.
Got a quick selection here from the game. So we're 9 minutes in, and we're fighting over Herald, right? And it's a good contest from us. Blabber has to get out of there, and Hecarim dies. Okay, that would be the last time Hecarim died, and I think the only time this season that Hecarim has died against us, by the way. But so okay, I didn't actually, when we went in to contest that, didn't think it was going to go our way. So happy that it did, right? Now Summit's chilling up top. We go in against Fudge. Realm Warp happens, and so we're like, okay, look at this. We won that. That's ours now.
Yeah.
That's not yours. And you know what? Neither is blue buff. Blue buff isn't yours either. Abbedagge kind of low. Closer is taking blue while everybody else finishes off the herald, right?
Yeah, it's ours.
And now
We
it's
won
like, we're kind of feeling ourselves a bit. But here comes Winsome. The headbutt actually misses. So we pop off with the combos. So Abbedagge and Closer go in, followed by Huhi. Now the Jinx Rocket misses. You see that? Jinx Rocket barely missed there.
Yep. Yep.
All right, just watch this setup. So Closer goes in.
That setup, by the way, this moment where the Jinx Rocket sails through, it's the only version we saw, I believe.
Yeah.
And it was sad.
Yeah.
Like, wow, it's so close.
If that lands, we may just play the rest of this better.
Yeah. Because we don't have to chase.
Yeah.
Here's the key thing. We don't have to chase if that lands.
Exactly.
But instead, look at these two guys right at the choke point. They walk forward to try to secure this kill. And then, you know what happens? Berserker.
Let's roll it. So, Berserker over the wall with the ulti. Winsome is All-Star, so you know he gets away. He always gets away. There goes one. There goes two. Summit is here just tearing through us. There goes three.
No.
And they're going to walk away. Now, actually, it looked like he was going to get one more kill here, but they actually get away. So it was a one fight. You're right. It was a one fight. If we turn around and don't engage this right here, we're fine. Or if the Jinx Rocket lands, we're probably fine. Maybe not. We'll see. But instead, we just get ripped apart because we're in the choke point, overstaying. Okay, that's one of those plays where it really sucks. Could have gone differently, but it didn't, and we didn't make a safe play, and we paid for it. Okay, so you think, not too big of a deal. We're down a little bit of gold, but hey, we got objective bounties, isn't that right?
Yeah,
so
well
let's
done.
fast forward to here. We're 2.5K gold behind. All right. And I think we're fighting this as if we're even with them. So just watch this. Fight over blue buff. Now they're going to leave. Oh, but Huhi, look at Huhi gets 2 with the solar flare. That's what I'm talking about, son. And so if you notice here, there's a charm from Abbedagge and I think a Zenith Blade from Huhi at the same time. So charm lands. So he starts getting charmed, but then he gets rooted by Huhi's Zenith Blade. So the charm doesn't like finish and Huhi gets flipped forward and boom, bounce house time, right? A lot of CC. And then there's Blabber, of course, to jump right through the middle of this because he's Hecker him. Fear on 2.
Whoa.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like, what if Huhi doesn't get so hyphy here? What if we actually got Winsome down? I don't know.
What
Still
if?
might have come out even. I don't know. But
His CSing is just too good, man.
well, as you know, C9 places a great deal of emphasis on support CS.
I know. And with clear effect, Cole. He can't lose these fights. He's down 5 CS. What?
Now,
Wait, what? Am I seeing that right?
5 CS. Fast forward. We got some objective bounties in this game, as I mentioned. It's almost 20 minutes in. The gold lead has shrunk a little bit. Okay. And here we are mid lane. And we think we have a fight. Okay. I'm sorry, Baron Pit. Sorry, I was reading the clip wrong. We think we have a fight here. We're getting pincered by Summit, and we're like, oh no, let's go. Right? Summit's over here. What did I say?
Baron.
Oh, my bad. Dragon Pit. So it's like, let's go. Ssumday goes in on Summit, tries to land floss to it. It does not land. No one follows Ssumday. All right?
Yeah.
So watch this. No one follows him. They're scared of Blabber because he's on Hecarim, and they know if they move away from him, he's going to charm him back, right? Based on the directionality of that ult. Abbedagge finally gets over there. Oh, let me rewind it here. Abbedagge finally gets over there. Watch what he does. Flash charm, right? Flash charm on Summit. Right here. Summit dodges out of the way. Okay? So it doesn't land.
Whoa.
And what does that mean? Ssumday, less HP, lots of time wasted. And in the meantime, we've given over kill, right?
Yep.
So FBI is down. Huhi's nowhere to be found. Maybe he died earlier. Maybe he had to go back because of health.
He also got wiped out in that.
Oh, did he earlier?
Yeah.
And then just look at this. We just get scattered and we run for the hills. And actually, a lot of this pretty close. You know what I mean? So what if FBI survives? What if that kill goes over? You know, and that was the kind of game it was for us. It was like, if that flash charm lands from Abbedagge, that fight goes differently, and maybe we're in the game. You know?
Yeah.
All night that was happening.
Yeah. And let me add another layer to this. I think that, so the question I asked you earlier, is this us being unlucky? Or, you know, like sometimes things happen in League. Like a guy walks away with 4 HP. Like you could say that's pretty unlucky.
Yeah.
Right. Now, technically it's not unlucky because the numbers are the numbers.
It feels unlucky.
It feels unlucky. I think that these plays you just highlighted are a really good illustration of what one of the main differences in this game was as I saw it. And that was hands. So in this last play, you called out the flawless duet. That's Summit stepping up. He steps forward instead of back to dodge that flawless duet. And then Abbedagge flash charms, and he's dashing through, I think, through the Vanguard's edge out of the way of the charm. Summit is cracked. This dude is so good. There was another play. How many times did Berserker die in this game? 0? That's the safe bet. At one point, he's godlike. I think it was 0.
Yeah, 0. 10, 0, and 5.
Okay, 10, 0, and 5. Closer. You didn't put this play up. Closer made what would have been a very sick play. And if you think back to our top 25 plays of last year, we know that this dude has the ability to do this like nobody in the LCS. He does ward hop, kick. He's going to get Berserker. He's going to feed him to the wolves, deliver him into the waiting arms of the entire team. But you know what happens instead? Gale Force. I went back and watched this play. It is so sick. This is such a sick play from Berserker. He sees Closer. There was a recent analysis of how fast you have to be when there is I think it was, I can't remember who it was. It was some commentator. Maybe it was Jat, or maybe it was even Bjergsen or something. But he did the ward hop, and then he kicked when he got there, right? Because you flash, you prime the kick,
right.
Kicks him. I don't know exactly how it works. I'm playing Lee Sin. I'm not good at League. But he did what he does, and which won us games last year, and big games on the same exact target, getting the ADC into the middle of our team where they have no chance, especially as a Felios. You are so dead. But Berserker hits a Gale Force as he's coming. So instead of the kick sending him north, the kick is sending him south. He dashes just far enough that the kick it's going in the same direction that he is.
Yeah.
So he kicks him into his turret. It's insane. And then Winsome, who, despite having a horrible game being down CS, played incredibly. He headbutts Lee Sin. And if you're not looking closely, and I think even I don't think Pastry even caught this. It looked like, and when I was watching it live, I was like, dude, Closer just thirsted so hard for this. He jumped in further. No, he got headbutted. It was just C9 is so good. Like, these players are so good. They were finessing us in ways that I don't typically see, or maybe I've never seen. Like some of these interactions, Gale forcing, and people who play a lot, I'm sure, have seen this. I've never seen this in the LCS. Somebody completely neutralizing, and in fact, hard countering a Lee Sin kick with a Gale Force in what could have been a pretty big play, right? Closer getting in, getting all of that bounty off Berserker, killing him. We could have had a play at an objective, and we had objective bounties. So maybe we get like 16,000 gold for it, you know? The dude
seems about right for objective bounties. Okay, so yeah, they're good. But again, these are a lot of mistakes of our own volition, right? These are like overstays or chases or thirsts or whatever. They are team fights where we're not together. There's lots of stuff like that. And then on top of that, all I'm saying is it came real close. I mean, think about it. Despite everything that happened, we were still kind of in that game, against C9. So I left that game being like, look, that is a really tough loss to stomach mentally. In the end, it looked like we got stomped. I don't count that as a stomp personally. If you want to, you're free to. I won't debate you. That's fine. Like, if you want to call it a stomp, cool. But I didn't feel like it was.
It ended like a stomp. It ended in a way that was completely one-sided,
And then we played Dignitas on Sunday.
Ooh.
Now, there's like no end to the amount of weird plays from this. In fact, the casters calling out just how weird and off everything felt was very emblematic of the game as a whole. Like it was like, all right, I don't know where we are.
Yeah.
I don't know why our players are playing that way. Their players were playing weird too.
Yeah. It looked super sloppy. It was such an incredibly sloppy game.
It was one of the worst games seen. Now, I don't know what happened to Abbedagge. I really don't.
No.
More conversation on him coming in a minute, but his like, oh, hi, you're here. Would you like to kill me? Let me turn around and walk back towards you for no earthly reason. That I think is the single most inexplicable play I've ever seen in LCS. I've only been watching since 2018, but I can't think of a more inexplicable play than that. I'm not sure what the thought was. And he had flash.
Yeah.
And it was just like, do you want to just kill me?
I guess I could just head back.
I can't describe it. It is what it is. Someone mentions Charms in Twitch chat. He was on Corki for this game. He missed, as we pointed out, he missed a big Charm against C9. But yeah, like, whew, I don't know what was going there. I thought his other kill where he got like killed by the wraparound of the Hecarim ult.
Yeah.
Like it was still not great, but I mean, I get it. This one I just didn't get.
Yeah, right. Like it doesn't seem to be a reason that like he was he trying to anticipate a skill shot? Maybe. I don't know. I don't think so. I'm trying to be charitable here. I can't think of it.
That is extremely charitable of you. I mean, it's a Victor, right? So he's got the straight line in front of him shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. And you've got flash. So
right.
I don't know what happened there. We had a major
blue.
Yeah.
It was blue.
Who owned Abbedagge earlier in the season as well. We had major team fight miscommunications throughout this. Looked like people weren't at all on the same page. The Abbedagge package to take the dragon where no one cared.
No one was putting
I don't know if anyone was even listening to him. Maybe the teams just blocked this guy out since he hasn't looked great. I don't know, but and just ton of like scattered, we're not sure what we're doing in fights moments. And Jordan, despite everything we saw, including the single most inexplicable kill I've ever seen in LCS, the game was pretty much even at 24 minutes.
That's something.
What?
Abbedagge, sorry, didn't he also get killed by Tom Kench solo kill?
No, that was FBI who got killed by the Tom Kench.
No.
Solo killed under the Tom Kench's turret.
Oh yeah, because he went back to try to get another. Like that's the exact kind of play where you look at it and you're like, what?
Second time that's happened to FBI this year. Not that he's been solo killed, but that he clearly walked right into the Tom Kench W.
Yeah. He should. Maybe there's an observer bug. Maybe it's a spectator bug. I don't know. It's not spectator. Maybe
we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about it.
Graphical bug.
But this was just the weirdest game, and one of the most forgettable games in Thieves history. Like, I can't think of a game off the top of my head where I felt we played worse than that.
That's what I said to you earlier before we went live. Is this has to at least be in the conversation for the worst we've ever looked.
Yeah.
It was usually in a bad game, you'll have a couple people making a play where you're just like, whoa, that's a real stinker. Man, you're gonna
Or
wish you
just
hadn't done
one
that
person running it down instead of multiple.
Yeah. This was across the board basically, except for poor Ssumday.
Poor Ssumday. Even he didn't have a perfect game, you know? But
No.
look, all that to say, this was like the worst possible end to our round robin that we could have, you know? It's like, what does a victory against TSM mean right now? It doesn't mean anything. We lost a tough mental game against C9. And then we just absolutely lost our brains for Dignitas. And there aren't any excuses for this, okay? So it was just a bad game. It was just very awful. I don't know what happened. No one was clear or paying any attention. So that's the state right now of the team. Now, I tweeted after that match that we have no right to call ourselves title contenders right now. I still believe that. So someone on Twitter was replying to me and saying that's like an overreaction or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we can make it through, be 5-4, and our current form being in this bad of a state and be like, no, we're title contenders. Now, can we get back there? Possibly. We have the talent, I think, to be a title contender, but there is no world right now where we should be taken seriously as title contenders. We've not earned it. We have not proved it.
Yeah.
So I think we need to talk about that. Like what's different about this team that just won LCS a split ago and just beat world champions EDG in a curb stomp, much more convincing than C9 beat us this past weekend.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And now we're here. So
that's what doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
I keep coming back to that. It would be so much different if you could point to something to say, you know, like when we got Bang, right? It was pretty easy to point to it and say that clearly is just not working. This is the exact same team. So what do you point to say, well, that's clearly an issue?
Well, Jordan, oddly enough, maybe I'm not really 100% convinced that that's Abbedagge playing. That might be like two children stacked on top of each other with a trench coat and a top hat on, faking that's like right. It's Abbedagge. Maybe the real Abbedagge is somewhere else.
That he had 4 hands. Yeah, 2 on keyboard, 2 on mouse.
Okay, but before we get to Abbedagge, because we will, I want to talk about some drafting things first. Sure. Okay. Yeah. We're dumb about draft. We're dumb about League of Legends, but there are some things you're jumping out to me. And one is Hecarim. All right. Now, when I saw Hecarim drafted against us, I immediately went, now I tried to remember why, because I went back on Leaguepedia to see the history of us playing against Hecarim. Mm-hmm. And it's been a really long time, actually, since Hecarim was picked into us. It must have been like spring 2021. Before this recent, like it was like 3 out of 4 games or something that Hecarim was playing against us. It felt much more recent to me and it felt awful. Like when I saw it locked in, I was like, I don't think we really play well against that Hecarim fellow, that Hecarim chap. Yeah. But lo and behold, we let it through. It seems like a very meta pick right now, which is kind of annoying because it was meta before, like not too distant past. So I kind of like it when we don't get the same thing over and over again, but here we are.
Yep.
We are 0-3 against Hecarim this year. It does not seem like we know at all what to do when Hecarim is played against us, especially in the team fights. The team seems terrified of him. There was a fight, I think it was in the C9 game where it was like 4 of our people are in the choke point by Dragon Pit on red side. And Abbedagge was across the wall, in the other choke point, right?
Yeah.
The one like closer to bot lane. And you could see how terrified he was of getting over that wall because he didn't want to run into the Hecarim. and he was like not actually close enough to really like lob in any of the Corki damage. He was just like, oh, I guess so. That must have been Dignitas then, because he was on Corki when this happened. I remember. So anyway, he's just terrified of the Hecarim. He's not close enough. I think Freak even called out in the cast like he's refuses to use his abilities, I think was the call.
I think that. Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And you could just see it. It's like the team plays differently when Hecarim's there. And I lost count of the times Hecarim got like 3 or 4 with the ult.
Yeah.
I don't know what you do. But banning it is an option. Or playing it is an option too.
Grabbing it. Yeah.
What is the state of Hecarim for us? Why aren't we playing it? Why aren't we banning it?
I mean, I think it feels to me like we're playing a lot of the same things that we have historically played.
Yes.
And, just looking back at our picks, Lee Sin, that's
we played Lee Sin, we played Xin Zhao, we played Trundle, and we played Jarvan. That's basically it, right?
Yeah, currently that's what's in the meta. No Hecarim. So, the typical disclaimer holds when you talk about why aren't we playing these things. Don't know, not sure. I have to imagine that. I mean, Closer is really good and likes to play Viego. And I think the best Viego players are the ones who feel pretty confident on a wide range of champions so that you can effectively use them once you grab their body. I have a hard time believing that he couldn't play a Hecarim. So I think we could probably cross that off the list. Not the most like mechanically complex champion.
It seems to reward aggression, and he's certainly an aggressive guy.
So what is it? Why is that not something? Tahm Kench is kind of the same for me, where my most recent memory is shortly after the rework we saw it come out, and it just looked bad. And so I would wager that we're probably not prioritizing or playing Tahm Kench because we don't think we're particularly good with it. But that's a problem because Tahm Kench is drawing bans from teams. Actually, Cloud9 banned it against us.
Yeah, I was shocked by that.
Yeah,
because I remember. Yeah, I remember our attempt at it, and it's like, okay, maybe Huhi's been grinding it, and we just don't know. But yeah, I was confused about that as well.
So yeah, it's TSM actually banned against us too. Maybe it's just because it's
there you go.
That busted that it's worth banning no matter what.
Unless you're us and we don't ban it.
Frost was on it.
We banned Caitlyn before. It's like, could we not have? Is Caitlyn a higher priority ban? Maybe it is. I don't know, but doesn't seem like it.
Yep.
Well, the Tahm Kench was my other thing. So we actually won a game against Tahm Kench. We beat EG when they played Tahm Kench against us earlier in the round robin. That was a really unfortunate game by EG. I don't know. Kind of surprised that we didn't get beat a little bit more, but we did see again, as I mentioned, we've seen FBI not know how to handle the W. And not give it the respect it deserves. Even when he's by himself, right? It's not like you've got a Thresh Lantern waiting for you or something.
Right.
You're by yourself and no, I wanted to step forward and like auto the turret one more time or something.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah,
is that higher priority than flashing out?
Was it a 3 or 4 man?
He got 3, yes. So 3. over the red buff back wall, he got 3 in the bush. And like, I'm pretty sure I saw that, like, I think they had vision on them coming into it. Like, barely got vision on this. He's like, oh, okay, someone's there.
Yeah.
Hi, here's 3 kills. Yeah. But it's like, can we not see the little circle? And just not go into it or get out of it? Isn't that how that works? Just get out of the circle. If you see the circle on the ground, get out of the circle.
Yeah, that's how the skill shot works.
And like, warning. It's not like they all 3 were standing perfectly on the geometric center of the Tahm Kench skill.
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like, can't you get out of that? Isn't somebody a little closer to the edge than someone else, and they can just get...
maybe what they thought was he doesn't know he's catching all three of us.
Oh, he
We're
doesn't
gonna get a kill.
know.
We're gonna get a kill, a free kill. All his friends were also there, unfortunately.
That was kind of later in the game, if I remember right, too. So it's like, he's going to be sufficiently tanky. He was popping off. I think this was after the FBI solo kill.
Yeah, right.
I forgot to make a note. Gosh, on that game. I think in that game, I would need to go back and look, or someone would need to tell me. I think we got a herald that we didn't use in that game.
Oh my gosh.
I hope I'm wrong about that.
That would be the icing on top.
If someone can investigate that and let me know in chat, that would be excellent. But I'm pretty sure we got heralded.
Oh, jeez, man.
Yeah. Anyway, Tom Kench, another champ we don't know how to play against. And then it's not just letting those champs through, but it's, again, playing what appears to be a pretty stale, selection of picks. Now, I don't know. I mean, we pulled out Ari.
Yeah.
And it looked, like I said, other than just the skill shots not landing at critical times, it looked pretty good. And there in the first game, the TSM game, Abbedagge, he was really going off with Ari. Yeah. So I don't know.
9-1-4.
Looked okay, but it's like we got the same junglers over and over again. Pretty much the same bot lane over and over again. Alistair was a great pick that Winston played. We haven't touched that. I don't know. Am I overreacting? I mean, Ssumday pulled out Aurelia, right? Are we? Maybe it's not so much that our picks are stale, but that our picks are wrong. You know what I mean? Like we've got the wrong priority on what we should be playing. I don't know. You have anything for me here?
I think it just feels stale. I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think you said it. It feels a lot like we're playing. Honestly, it feels like we're playing last patch, where we don't have, gone are the days it feels like where we're the ones who are first to something.
By the way, Cosmic Flash saying we did drop the Herald mid, but it was with a bad wave, so they destroyed it without getting anything done. And it passed an opportunity to drop a top lane, which I remember that. I remember being like, not sure why we did that. So
yeah. That's I guess a bad decision in the end.
And as Kusino's pointing out, the Tryndamere pick was good by us.
Yes, we have done some of these things. We've done Tryndamere. We have the Ari. We haven't seen Azeri, but I'm guessing it's because it's been banned every time.
It's almost always banned. Yeah.
It feels like it's a perma ban. We're seeing Jinx. We're seeing the stuff that is really. It's not like we're not playing champs. Yeah. We're seeing the Jace. So I don't know, but it just feels like we're playing the stuff that everybody's playing, and then you get something that not everybody's playing, or that is the next thing, like the Hecarim, and it feels like we get punished in those situations. Yeah. It's one thing to be able to play the consensus strong picks. I think part of the goal here, just in general, is to anticipate what is the next strong thing, because people have less practice against it, and they will have not prepared it as much themselves, right? So you don't have to worry about them grabbing it. And I think right now we're almost always in that position. It feels like, probably Tryndamere being the exception, but that's that's not new tech. That's just us flexing Ssumday's muscles on people, and that seems to be one of the only things working for us with any consistency.
So let's talk about that then. Let's move to that.
Yeah.
Ssumday's carrying. He's done well this split. He really has. He has been the most consistent bright spot for the team.
Yep.
He's played at about as high a level as we've seen him play for 100 Thieves. It's not always resulting in wins. there have been a couple times where we've been unable to convert the lane lead into any sort of meaningful effect, like, for instance, this game against Dignitas, right? Where he beat Fake God pretty handily in lane. If I'm remembering right, I think after Ssumday got the first kill against Fake God, then he gave one back pretty quick. But he did solo kill him later and had a CS lead. The Jace gets ahead. We saw what Summit did with that. But Ssumday didn't do it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of things I think are worth mentioning. I think the Aurelia game is probably an interesting one to look at and question, like I think Ssumday got outplayed by Summit.
Yeah.
Without question, in my mind. I think that was a gauntlet was thrown down, and I think Summit picked it up and put it on his own hand, right? And that's how that goes. So the one that I will give Ssumday more of a pass on is the Dignitas game on Jace, where you can only, even the best player will lose a game if everyone else on their team is trying to throw. And it just felt like everybody else was making these incredibly poor plays. So I will give Ssumday a lot more of a pass for that game. Like I think he did what he could, but he didn't 1v9. If you're gonna fault, it's like, okay, he didn't 1v9. And that's on you Ssumday. The other 4 guys had something to do with it too.
Sure. I think the point though is not always knowing what to do once we get him ahead.
Well, I mean, in that game, I think very specifically, it's not that we didn't know what to do. It's that people were actively doing the wrong things. It's getting caught out. It's giving over solo kills. It's using key utility cooldowns in really puzzling ways. Like he's Jace. He's got a pretty limited kit. He's going to need you guys to be keeping them at least sort of occupied so he can chip them down,
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Okay. Fair enough. It's a fraught conversation with longtime 100 Thieves fans because we had a problem like this in past splits where Ssumday was 1v9 and usually it didn't pan out.
Yeah.
And you just don't think with this supporting cast that should be happening, right?
Should not be happening. Absolutely. And that's why we've been successful in the past, because it hasn't been happening. Like this is one of the only times I can think of where Ssumday is literally the only guy who showed up to play. And our past iterations with Ssumday, I think there were many more occasions where it felt like the team just didn't know how to enable him or how to play. And it wasn't like you had these unforced errors. It's just like, we're just not getting the setup here.
Mm-hmm.
We're not creating a path for Ssumday to convert his lead into, objectives. So, I mean, this one was like, it was like a comedy of errors, right? So felt very different.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. What's extra odd about that to me is, as we pointed out several times, it feels like the synergy in the early game between him and Closer is excellent.
Yeah. Agreed.
That's what's so weird about it, is like their like pre 10-minute ganks are successful at such a high rate. And it seems like Ssumday is just like really learned how to best bait for Closer. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
And he's doing such a good job of that. And it just seems like, oh, boom, every single time they're going to get a kill, and that will yield some lane advantage, lane advantage for Ssumday, which he's then able to push and win the lane. It's just post win the lane that things are falling apart.
Right.
There was a really sweet setup against Fake God where there was like am I remembering this right? Is like, yeah. There was Closer did he get the knock up with the Xin Zhao like W?
The third hit of the
and
Q
Ssumday like followed through with the shock blast, and it was like perfect. It was like the perfect distance, perfect everything, and Fake God flashed out of it. And it's like, if that kill goes over, it's like, man, they are just crazy. And even though they didn't get the kill, you still get flash out of Fake God. Cool. You know? they are just doing such an excellent job. And that's why this is even more puzzling, where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
they seem to be,
Yeah.
really on the same page early game. So what happens late game? Because clearly the team is not, not treating the late game macro decisions and fights with the proper care. Should I say?
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird because, again, like in the past split, you've had jungle gap, you've had bot gap that you can really ride to victory. And it almost feels now like we have this, what should be an insurance policy, which is Ssumday's going to take this game over if you guys just, jump in the backpack, and they're, and then they grab the backpack, but they forget to like move, lift their feet off the ground. So they're just dragging, and you can't carry them. It's weird because they've gone from, hey, I'm going to carry this game, to I'm going to single-handedly make enough mistakes that this game is unwinnable. Okay. All right. I guess that's what we're doing now.
Yeah. So maybe that's like a positive sign for going forward, where it's like, well, at least the early game Ssumday closer synergy is probably the best it's ever been. So as long as we can address some other things, then we should have a pretty reliable early game advantage. Even if I'm not remembering wrong, I think like even against Summit, things were okay in top lane for a while, Wouldn't say great, but like, it was like Summit's not smashing us. We're holding even in top lane. Felt like that, maybe I'm wrong in retrospect, but I don't know. So that's something to maybe stand on for the future. But that doesn't, that's one of the bright spots. There are more dark spots that we weren't expecting that kind of outweigh those things. Like, for instance, what has happened to our bot lane?
I don't know.
FBI was all pro, first team, 80 carry last season. And I felt like Huhi kind of got shafted because Huhi like played so consistent and so well last split.
Yeah.
And then now, I'm not sure who we've been winning against in bot lane.
Yeah, that's a sad question.
I'm not sure we really win in bot lane. Like, did we even win bot lane against TSM?
I can't remember specifically.
Yeah, I feel like we didn't early. What used to be like the most reliable thing and the crutch that we could always lean on now seems to be like the weakness, right? Where for who knows what reason. Do you think, like, when it comes to like priority on placing blame here, let's play blame game. Not accepting both as an answer, more FBI's fault or more Huhi's fault?
I think more Huhi's fault.
Me too.
Yep.
So tell me about that. I'll see if I point out anything that you've left out.
I mean, it's tricky in some ways. I think it's easy to have a support who is kind of the victim of bad circumstances, right? Especially when you're on a champion like Leona and you have an engage and no disengage, right? You have an engage and endure is kind of your, like, that's the plan.
Yeah.
Weather
engage,
the storm,
push the W and hope it lasts long enough.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think, I think you have to be careful to not excuse what in a lot of cases I think it's just been decisions that were not the right decision to make, right? So it can't all be put on the team. The lane stuff is what feels a little bit more, honestly, more no, I don't know if I'd say more concerning. It's just more out of character. Well, I don't even know if I'd say that, to be honest with you, because I think consistently in the last split, what we talked about so often, and oftentimes we did it as an afterthought because that's sport life, was like, man, Huhi's looking crisp. We need this guy on engaged champs. He's just clean on engage. He gets, if he's on Nautilus, watch out. He's gonna CC your whole entire team.
CC your life.
Yeah. So I think there are other factors at play. This is maybe the weird. I'll highlight the weird thing for me, and you can let me know if you agree. The weird thing for me is the lane stuff
Yeah.
because I think, um, or actually no, mm, maybe the weird thing for me is the team fight stuff because um, what in the game has changed significantly about the team fight phase, and maybe yeah, I'm glad you have something on cue. And maybe it's just the fact that the lane phase is so different that we're not showing up to the team fight.
That's
phase in
exactly
the
what
same
that's
position.
what I think. What I think, because I
Yeah.
see what you're saying. It's like what has tended to happen, as we highlighted earlier when we talked about the C9 game, is that Huhi like is kind of engaging at all costs. He's like, if I find the engage, we're good.
Right.
So he just finds the engage. There's never like disengage. There's never like, I mean, I guess he doesn't have a lot to peel with usually, but you know what I mean? It's like he's always looking for a way in.
Mhm.
I think he got real used to that last year because we were always ahead, basically. He was
Yeah.
like him and FBI were always super strong. And so like, you see a lot of these turn and hook in,
Mm-hmm.
like fake retreat, turn and hook in, and he lands it so many times. Like he actually like he threads the needle, gets the hook.
Yeah.
But the other team just too strong when that happens and he gets popped early. FBI has to run, or maybe FBI gets popped early. It seems like he does that expecting that things are going to be like last season and we'll win. We'll win the fight because we're ahead. And I just think that doesn't apply anymore because we're usually
Right.
behind now in bot lane for whatever reason, which is so weird.
Well,
to me.
and I think that's a really important point because the window used to need to be only like a crack open
Yeah.
for FBI to get in there and delete 2 to 3 people. And now that's just not the case. Like you said, the lead is smaller in a lot of cases, or it's not a lead. So I'm sure that takes some adjusting too. Like he's calibrated his decision making based on the fact that he's got FBI behind him and potentially closer too, who's ready to just absolutely ruin people.
Yeah.
And when that doesn't happen, yeah, he can look kind of silly, right? So it's like, but that is, I don't think you can excuse it fully. Like he has to adjust to the reality
Sure.
of the situation and know when it is a good time to go in and when it's not.
Yeah.
So
It's funny earlier on in the season, like during lock-in, remember it was like, oh, Enchanter bot lanes, Enchanter supports, like that's making a comeback, And he played Lulu and Karma against Dignitas when we got O2'd during lock-in. And it looked bad. Like it did not look like he knew what he was doing. So engaged support is pretty much a must, it seems like. But I don't know. It's like hook champs, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's the Nautilus hook, whether it's the Leona E, right? I'm going to call that a hook because that's kind of what happens. You stick to them, you stun them in place.
You root them in place, and then one champion travels.
Right. And then Thresh also, right?
Yeah.
It's like that's just how his brain works. But yikes, man. It is without the leads, he's just not doing it. And in lane phase, honestly, I think a lot of lane phase actually does go back to him as well. So it's like the fight starts there. It's like he really wants to find those early skirmishes, and a lot of times it's costing.
Yeah.
A lot of times they turn around, they lose a skirmish. Maybe the engage is at the wrong time. I think FBI has been playing a little farther back, a little more passive than usual. Maybe FBI is just trying to, like, maybe he feels like he has to play safer based on what's been happening, but I don't see the killer instinct out of him anymore.
Right.
I don't see it in the same way. Like you could just see him thirsty for kills last split. Like it was like, you could just see the way he positioned and the way he like always forced himself into a spot where he can get auto attacks off, Yeah. And it just doesn't seem like he's got the bloodlust anymore.
Yeah. And that's the thing that, again, you could say teleport changes, strategic shifts, having a mid lane not being pushed out as frequently. Like there are a lot of different things that you could point to say maybe this is why. But I think back to Worlds, and these guys were getting, if I'm not mistaken, 2v2 kills.
Yeah.
Against Worlds bot lanes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you come back and you can't even, how are we going even with some of the worst bot lanes in the LCS? Like this doesn't make sense. This just doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up.
Yeah. So I think we've got a significant problem in bot lane as well. I don't want to overlook that. And I think I'm leaning at this point towards it's more of a Huhi problem than an FBI problem. But I do think FBI is playing without the same swagger and confidence. And maybe it's just because we're losing or whatever, but it just doesn't seem to be working right now. So that'd be one of my priorities for what to fix is like get those guys to figure out whatever the issue is, because I genuinely believe a lot of that is in lane. It just seems like it goes back to what happens in the lane phase. They're just not getting the same advantage that they're used to in lane phase. That's just what happens.
It's a knock-on effect then that makes the rest of the game look not as sharp as it has in the past. Yeah, I think so.
I don't think Closer's been himself in the same way, but I also don't think he's really played that bad. So right now I kind of don't have anything to say on Closer. It's like, he definitely doesn't look like he did in playoffs last split, but I don't know. I have a hard time being like, oh yeah, Closer has a lot to do with the problems that we're having. Some people don't see it that way, and that's why I bring that up. Am I missing something about that? I mean, a couple people in my Twitter mentions mentioned him as a candidate for replacing, and to me, I was like, did I miss something, or are you with me?
I mean, look, if any position is one that I feel probably least qualified to give a critical analysis of, it's probably jungle, just because the pathing, all of these things that people who spend a lot of time playing jungle are more familiar with and understand. I don't have any of that exposure. The things that are easy to watch with Closer is, his objective play. Like he is great at smiting.
He is. We're not getting as many dragons, but we also don't have bot prio permanently anymore.
Yeah, we don't have bot prio, and also we don't have mid prio either. Yeah, so good luck getting a dragon.
We got a mid lane gank this weekend. Did you see that?
No.
We got a mid lane gank, and I think it was successful. But
hey, there you go. Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's the thing that is more indicative of a problem with Closer is, and this is by no means like a careful analysis. You just look at his stat lines, and he's not getting kills. And here's your sorry for being so obvious, but it feels like the overall position, even on a bad game where we have basically no shot, Dignitas, Ssumday ends up with a 4-3-0 stat line. Like he's still getting kills. So the fact that even in a bad game, and this didn't used to be the case, even in a bad game, even in our worst game, the fact that Closer is ending with what looks like a support stat line, right? He's playing, it feels like he's playing a more supportive, engage style. I think I'll actually just pull it up really quick. He ended up 1-5-2, and everybody had a bad stat line in that game except for Ssumday, who, as a Jace, that's not the stat line you want.
Yeah.
But it wasn't triple negative. And Lee Sin 2-5-4. And then on the first Lee Sin game that we won, he was 1-0-9. So even that, it's that's not a carry stat line. And that's not a team setting him up to carry either.
Sure.
So for me, that feels, if we're going to say okay, what's something to work on? Bot lane is let's get lane figured out. For Closer, it's well, let's figure out how we can get him back to consistent carry performances. We don't need him to have 9 assists. We need him to have 9 kills.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's kind of fair. I mean, I don't know. He just, it hasn't looked radically different to me, just that we're not getting results as much. So I'm not willing to sit here and focus on Closer and point to him as a thing, because I just think there are many other pressing things, including I need to issue an adjustment to my referendum on Abbedagge. So here we go on that.
Oh, before you get there, this is my one time to do that in this episode. I think it doesn't help a ton that Viego is currently out of the meta.
Yeah, but I mean, he's got other jugglers, right? He played
has other
Lee Sin a
jugglers.
bunch. He was dominant on Lee Sin. He's played Lee Sin and it hadn't been anything.
I think his best champ is Viego. It's just, it became his signature. Like they made a video about him being Viego. So, like that's one less opportunity for him to do what he does.
Fair enough. Okay, so Abbedagge. Cast your mind back to last week when I gave a semi-passioned defense of him because I was like, look, what I said was eye test wise, I agree he doesn't look sharp. It looks not great eye test wise. But statistics seem to be like, hey, he's actually like contributing just as much or more as he did when we were winning big. Okay. And he was doing that without being given the same resources that he was given in the previous. Right. So I was like, yeah, so maybe he's actually doing okay. And he has those moments at bad times. Mm-hmm. This week, the eye test thing got so bad, as bad as it's ever been. And the stats didn't do well this weekend either.
You went back and looked at them.
It was, well, like I didn't look at the change, that this week imparted, but it's like clearly, it wasn't the same. I am officially in like this zone where I don't know what's going on with him. Okay. So if you are one of those people that's like, look, Abbedagge is playing bad this split, I can no longer refute you. I think that people were saying that earlier in the split than was justified.
Yeah.
Because what he did this past week was demonstrably worse than what he's done in the other weeks. Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. But it got comical. It really did.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to defend that. Like so much of it is just like, I don't know what he thought. Scusomatic says, seems like he's running on autopilot. Kind of does, but even autopilot wouldn't have walked back into that victor. Right? Like, I don't know. It just, nothing about that makes sense to me. So I can only assume that there is something in his life or something like with the team or whatever, where he's just not feeling like himself.
Yeah.
Maybe this has happened before when he was still in Europe. I don't really know the history that well, to be honest. Mm-hmm. Maybe he has a history of good splits and bad splits, but we are definitively in a bad split with him right now. Now, remember what I said. I am sticking to my dang guns. Mm-hmm. If he sucks this split and we don't do well at all, which is the current trend.
If the split ended today, that's what you'd say.
That's what we'd say. I'm still rolling with him for summer. All right. I think people are underestimating how hard it is to find a good mid lane talent. And people point to the fact that he's an import. All right, where else are we going to use our import slot if not in mid? And which domestic talent are we going to put there? Okay. Obviously, we're going to use an import mid. So what other import mid are we going to put in that slot? And I see people talking about like, oh, we need Jensen or we need Niski. And I'm here to tell you right now, that ain't going to solve the problem right now. So no, that's not going to do it. Now, Abbedagge right now in current form is also not going to do it. Mm-hmm. So something has, we're not going to win a title if he's playing like this. So something's got to change. I hope he's okay. I hope he's not having a hard time adjusting or whatever, or just like in a rut. I hope that's not the case. And if he is, I hope something can pull him out of it. But right now, man, it is looking rough and we have no real solution. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a worry, that's kind of a worry. We don't have a great solution. We had this thing locked down last split and now here we go. There's probably going to come a time where it'll just switch back on. All right. But until that happens, it's going to be real rough around here.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you think he's just being ignored? It looks like in the fights like that he just does things differently.
Ignored by whom?
The team.
Like the team is
The team
like
is
not listening to
not
him, like
following him.
not
You know,
communicating.
you've been in League of Legends games where like a player is trying to do things and you're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I really don't know. And I got to imagine that dig game must have been very tilting to play in. Just so it's possible that at that point nobody was talking to anybody about anything. You know, people weren't really on their
Yeah.
A game. I think that the question I have for you is, in a way, actually. So there's this kind of this weird thing, this thought I've had as you were talking, which is the fact that he was good before, and the fact that he just looks like a different player now. It almost makes me not as worried if it looked like he had just lost his edge. Like it looks like he has lost his ability to pay attention to the game, which feels like a separate thing, right? Like it doesn't look like he's lost a step.
It looks like he's
Which
not really
happens.
playing.
It looks like he's not moving. It looks like he's stopped stepping altogether. So in that, maybe a different way to say this is like in baseball, right? Pitchers can get this thing called the yips, which is where you literally forget how to throw a baseball. It's your entire job. You forget how to throw a baseball, and it will last for a bit. It looks to me like he's got a bad case of the yips.
Sometimes
Like
it lasts permanently.
it does last permanently sometimes.
Don't say this.
So the alternative is that he's just not as good as he was, which feels like a really weird thing, right? And I think that the thing you said is totally valid. It's possible there's other stuff going on. It's always possible there's other stuff going on we don't know about. Like maybe mentally he's not in the right space to dedicate the insane amount of time and energy you need to be one of the top, League of Legends players in the world.
Speaking of, if anyone knows anything about Champions Q, what he's doing there, let us know in chat.
Ooh, that'd be interesting. So, all that being said, there are two distinct possibilities that I see right now. One is that we have a performance issue, and that he is, for whatever reason, losing pace with the competition. And the other is that something's up. And if something's up, we got to solve something. And I feel like that might actually be an easier thing to do in some ways. And I'm with you. I think that you stick with him until it's clear that something has become not just like a passing thing. At which point you gotta make some hard decisions.
Yeah. Well,
But it's like maybe you gotta get this dude into like a yoga program, or like maybe he needs to do some meditation. I don't know. Switch his diet. Like go for walks in the morning. Try stuff. Sleep facing the other end of your bed. Who knows? But let's try it and see what happens.
Well, until we get that figured out, not only are we not running a 6-man roster, we're also not running a 5-man roster. So I really do hope we get that sorted out.
Oh no.
And we hope that that's soon. Okay, so speaking of roster stuff, one of the things I wanted to bring up, and this is going to bleed over with a lot of listener takes. So I think like I may let this little segment serve as an answer to some of the listener takes, but a lot of people are talking about roster changes. Okay, first of all, I don't think we're going to see Tenacity. I think they abandoned that. Some people have brought up Tenacity role swap to mid. I don't think that's happening. I know it worked for Fudge. Chovy was playing top a while ago. Mid and top, I guess you could say. I don't think that's happening though. All right. Look, I get that things feel super bad right now. But we have lost 4 games in a period of 4 weeks. We've had worse before. Mm-hmm. And we've had just as bad before, including, do you remember our streak at the end of the summer split last year? It's like we kind of were wondering how well we were going to do in the playoffs.
And then we won.
And then we won everything. You know? We dropped games like leading up to playoffs. We dropped games to Golden Guardians. We dropped games to Immortals. We lost games to Dignitas. We lost. It just doesn't look that great, right? And that like things that should not have happened, and they did. Yet we were still able to put it all together. I don't know. Maybe. Oh, that just brings it home. Do you know what we need to do, Jordan? We need to watch Mad Lions VODs again. Isn't that what fixed all of our problems last year?
There it is.
During playoffs.
Easy.
But look, the thing is, and this is a serious point, it feels real bad, especially how it ended, right?
Yeah.
But let's theoretically say last weekend's Super Week was a 4-game week instead of a 3-game week. The Dignitas game was 3rd. And then we played, say, EG right after that, and we beat EG. EG not in the best spot right now, right? Do you think we would be feeling this bad about the team if we turn around and beat EG? I don't think so. I don't think it would be such a skies falling thing for people. And that's what one win over very medium tier competition could do, right? This is not the time to replace some players. It's not.
No, I agree.
And let me say for the 1000th time, this is the roster that won the LCS championship just last split. Have some respect. They've earned a cushion. We do expect to win. We expect to be good. We're not living up to that expectation right now. No doubts about it.
Yeah.
But give them some respect. Give them some time. They earned it. They really earned it. And we know, and we've seen it this split. We've seen the level that we can play at. We've had games where we've looked very good. We beat Team Liquid. We're one of the 2 teams to do that. Right?
Right.
In fact, we should contextualize our record. This is weird. Okay. Our record is like the weirdest thing. We're 5-4. Our wins are against Team Liquid, who's tied for 1st. CLG, who's in 9th. Cool. EG tied for 6th. Golden Guardians tied for 3rd with us, by the way. And TSM in last place. So it's like got win against the top, wins against the bottom, couple wins against the middle too, right?
Yeah.
On the loss side, lost to Immortals, tied for 6th. Lost to FlyQuest with us tied at 3rd. Lost to C9, tied for 1st. And lost to Dignitas, tied for 6th. 6th place is a game behind us, right? So it's like...
We're in the muddy middle.
We are. It's whatever they used to call it. Like that's what we're in. And we've had the peak and we've had the valley, right? The soup. They used to call it the soup. I think that's just the way things are right now. And those teams, they're not spread out by so many games. You know, it's still kind of just a cluster.
Yeah.
But we're one of the 2 teams to beat Team Liquid. We know we can put it together really well. It's just a matter of whether we do. Right now, we are a high variance team capable of good things and capable of the worst things. Also, it turns out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's that thought had crossed my mind too. That phrase that is probably overused, but high variance. I think that going into this split, we had hoped and thought that the variance might be, like our low point might be 50%. On our worst day, we're going to be like a mediocre team, sitting around average. What we've learned is that the variance it actually covers almost the entire line. And that at our low point, we are an incomprehensibly bad looking team. We could lose to nearly anybody with a performance like that. And I'm not trying to just be goofy, but like if you make that many unforced errors in one game, like it's gonna be really hard to win against anybody in the LCS. And at our best, we can beat Team Liquid. So that isn't It shouldn't sound reassuring. I don't think it does. But that's not what you want. You want to narrow that band way down and then scoot it up towards the 1 to 2 line. That's the goal.
Yeah.
So we've fallen from that. We need to fix those things. We have to make sure that we don't have these games like where we just don't show up.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're already pretty far into this, so let's do a flyby of some of these listener takes here. Jukes said FBI has been losing his confidence in fights lately, not putting in the damage when he needs to be, and is backing off from them a lot. We agree with that sentiment. Obviously, we discussed that earlier, so that's good. Real Connection said, our take on the meta is behind. We're still playing junglers that build Sterix and Gore Drinker that used to have a high early power spike, when now it seems to be Hecarim and Trundle. So why haven't we played Hecarim yet in Super Week? In Super Week, only one team lost that played Heck. So, yeah, kind of, I think that's like a more technical and insightful thing about the jungle, where it's like, yeah, we clearly agree that, our meta take may be a little stale or off in the, everything besides Tryndamere, basically. But the whole thing about the builds, used to have the early high power spike for closer, and now that's not as available. So that's a really good point. Erdoro, all the way from Sweden, suggested we temporarily sub in Tenacity mid, or Ssumday mid, while Abbedagge is in this weird slump. The last 2 games were not great. The problem with that is then you don't give Abbedagge time to fix it. Unless you're going to let him have time to back away and like, hey, I'm going to take 2 weeks off just for mental. I don't think that's a good idea. And then the other part about that is we are in a battle for playoff position right now. We can't necessarily just take breaks. I mean, I know it doesn't look great right now with Abbedagge in, but maybe that's better to take that chance with someone who we know can do it at times versus the question mark of whether Tenacity can play the role.
Yeah.
Anything to add there?
The thought that came to my head while you're talking about that is, we are in playoff contention, fighting for our spot for spring. And as we talked about early, like, this is weighted towards summer now. And I mean, I think so. If you're calling for roster changes now, I mean, I have to assume that you believe that that's going to give us a greater chance of winning spring, or like, competing for spring. I don't know. It feels to me like, is there a version of this where we don't have to make these program altering decisions in like, is it like what, been a month, 6 weeks? I don't know how long.
I count locked in a little bit bigger, a little longer.
So it just feels to me like, I think I'm as we've talked about this, I think I'm leaning more towards your thing, which is like, look, if we play this roster out and we fail in summer and we don't accomplish what we hope to and set out to, then I think
Yeah, and it's like, look, as a GM or a coach or something, which mistake do you want to make? Do you want to make the mistake of betting on the team that won the split last year, or make the mistake of subbing in a top laner for the player that won you the chip last year and that failing, right? Like, which mistake is worse to make? I think it's the latter, right? So that optimizes the decision making a bit.
Yeah.
Nick Moore says something Abba, something spring, something bad, something. Couldn't have said it better myself. Bamatide says, in all 3 games this week, Ssumday was on carry champs and was the bright spot of the team. In each loss, he was literally 1v9. I'm in agreement with that. And this has been a big thing for Bamatide this year. Bamatide is caping for Ssumday carry. And rightfully so this year. So I think in past years we've seen more. Not sure if that's the right take, but it seems like this year that one's bang on.
I mean, I think that's on. The thing that I think is, based on history, I expect that will fall short. I don't think it's a winning recipe to just accept that Ssumday is going to be our carry, our primary and sole carry. So yes, it might be that we need to lean on him more while the rest of the team figures some stuff out. But if we hope to actually make a deep run in playoffs and or win again, we have to get the other stuff figured out.
Yep.
It's not going to be Ssumday versus the world.
For sure.
We've seen that movie, and it doesn't end with us holding a trophy.
For sure. Rush GG said our bot lane had access to Luger and Poom to practice against an academy last year. This could be a factor of bot lane slumping. And to me, that's like, wow, seems like a really obvious thing that we just didn't mention.
Yeah.
But
I never mentioned it.
Entirely possible that, you know, iron sharpens iron or whatever the thing is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so maybe they just don't have as much of a challenge from our current academy guys. That's an interesting, should be obvious thought, but you know, obviously, I haven't been thinking that direction.
I hadn't thought of it either.
Yeah, smarter than
Kelsey
us always.
Smarter than us.
She would. Hey, we mentioned academy, Kelsey. Macady88 took issue with my tweet after the Dignitas game because he said no claim to title contenders is a bit drastic. We played some good games against decent teams. Players are still playing well, but they do need to clean up some areas. TL look like clear favorites, but to say 100T isn't top 3 is crazy to me. Lots of teams have slumped during the season. Good reminder though, as I pointed out earlier, we did slump last year right before we won. So
yep.
And then finally this one. This is the only one I think we'll talk about for a more, you know, a lengthier amount of time. This one comes from who else? It's from JC101, who probably has he has gotten the kill streak activated off of listener takes in a row on the pod. He says, hot take, internal issues with the team is the reason we hadn't had any behind the scenes content like the Heist 2.0. So takes like this. In the past, I've brushed them aside with a chuckle, right? Because it's like, look, there are other things at play. It's still true there are other things at play. The Heist, they told us the Heist is over, right? They were completing that series, and they didn't give a clear indication of, is there going to be something in its place?
Right.
If there is something in its place, is it going to be the same format? What does that look like? There was never any explanation or direction there, right? So it's not like they're not giving us something they promised.
Right.
I have suspected that for a lot of the Heist in recent couple of seasons, I guess, the numbers have been down to the point where it may have not been worth it to them to keep putting in the same amount of effort into producing those. And I mean, in some cases you have to, like the Heist wasn't a weekly thing last year, right?
Yeah.
And some of it, you know, obviously the end of the season one where they won the championship was killer. It was amazing. Do not forget that, because we need to make sure that's nominated for Content Piece of the Year at the Esports Awards, because it came out right after the cutoff for nomination.
Right.
So we need to keep that fresh in our memory. Anyway, I think there are several reasons why we wouldn't have a thing like the Heist in play right now. Those are a couple of them. But I kind of think that maybe this could be part of it. I don't think it's the deciding factor, but I am wondering what it's like behind the scenes right there, you know, right now, because everybody is quiet. There is just nothing really being said. I think with some of the mistakes that have been made in the play, that some players would have grounds to be unhappy with other players.
Yeah, for sure.
It doesn't seem like interviews are coming out with the same frequency. Doesn't seem like post-game tweets are coming out with the same frequency. We got Papa Smithy saying, let me find it. Something to the effect of, we weren't good enough on the day Dignitas was the better team. What is it exactly? He said, today we weren't good enough. We have a lot of work to do to get back to where we want to be. GG, well played to Dignitas. You guys have had our number in 2022. But we haven't had much else coming out of Papa Smithy, who used to kind of tweet after like every game, basically. Mont's pointing out we have had some comms videos, and they've seemed a little weird at times. Like I feel like I saw one where closer was just being ignored in comms. That was kind of weird. I don't know, but I'm wondering if maybe things aren't peachy over there. Now, something I'm also hearing as like a take pretty often is like Master Roshi's not there anymore. Referring to the mental health coach or whatever.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, because I liked him. I thought he had a good effect on the team. It was cool seeing him in the content. I'm sure it did not hurt. Okay. But I'm not sure having him means the season's peachy right now.
Yeah.
I think this is probably bigger than Master Roshi.
Yeah. I mean, you can't, what's the word I'm looking for? You can't disprove a negative. Is that?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You know, how do you, that maybe that's not right, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah, man, it is one of those things where you have to at least stop and wonder, you know, if the team is less resilient. I think that's a big part of what like one of those types of positions focuses on is resilience and let's get our heads in the right space. If the team is less resilient, it's like I think on the broadcast they said this team still looks shaken from their loss to C9 yesterday.
Yeah.
You know? So everybody's recognizing it. Not like, man, there's a really big thing. Everybody recognizes the possibility that a team can get into their own head about this stuff. We're not as good as we were. These other teams are better. You know, we just got absolutely shellacked by C9, and that's, you know, that's our competition. And now here's how we're going to show up against Dig. So I don't know. I mean, there's nothing to do about it because it's done. But
worth mentioning, it's the third game of Super Week also. So it's like, hey, we got one more game to prepare for also, and it's the team that looks the weakest of the ones that we're playing. I guess TSM.
Yeah.
TSM maybe. Anyway,
TSM
it's with a busy game schedule. Maybe it's easy to overlook one opponent.
Yeah. So I will give it a consideration at the very least. The fact that we don't have that position. And the content stuff, I don't think it's a great sign. And this is always the thing with esports teams, right? Like think about the the announcement video that Vitality did, and then the way their season started.
Yeah.
It's a brutal space. If you make a big deal of yourself and then you show up and you are not competing, you're inviting memes. So it's a rough one. It's like it's a hard thing to feel really confident in making big plans for. And then if it's not going well, like, is that really what you want to be spending your time on? Interviews, you know, having a bunch of people trying to get footage of stuff, having people in the room where, you know, things are getting tense. Probably not. So yeah, I'm sure there's an element of truth to what JC is saying here.
Yeah. I think that's probably the case. Now I will also say I am the head of the Trust the Papa campaign, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I still have that trust. So one of the things I appreciate the most about Papa Smithy is how carefully and thoughtfully he communicates when he does communicate. And he's, you know, I mean, he's like a professional. We don't have any Andy situations, right?
Thank goodness.
We don't have any LS situations.
Yeah.
And I think that will continue to be the norm. It's like we have like an adult in the room with Papa Smithy. And so I think if there's a team that can overcome problems like this, like if there's a team equipped staff wise to deal with it, it's probably us. So that's a good sign. And Jordan, let's not forget next week, let's make our predictions. Next week, we play Team Liquid and CLG. I mean, what do you feel like if next week is a 2-0 for us? I mean, is it like, well, we're 7-4, you know, yeah, we had a really bad end to our Super Week, but we beat Team Liquid again. You know, it's like, does this all go away? Is there a chance this, and that's overstating it, but is there a chance that like winning next weekend could theoretically undo a lot of the panic?
I think it would, because I think people have a pretty short attention span when it comes to this kind of thing.
Mhm.
It wouldn't make me feel a lot better, because I think that outcome is still within this high
Exactly. Yeah.
variance realm of possibilities that we talked about. We can still beat TL and then go out and lose our first round of playoffs, you know, in just unbelievable fashion. So for me, what I need to see is sustained improvement over time. Of course, you want to beat TL. You want to beat everybody you play. It would be great if we did. But until we start showing up looking sharp, even if we lose a game, looking sharp, making it close consistently, then I will still have the concern that we're going to show up and when it really counts, when the chips are all on the table, with this kind of performance we saw this last weekend. So that will take time to move away from.
Yeah. So from here on out, it's like if we average winning 2/3 of our games, we're probably in a fine spot.
Mhm.
2 out of 3. That's really not that much of like a winning percentage, right?
Yeah.
I think I would need to see a couple weeks of it for me to be like, okay, cool. We do look like we're, more like ourselves again.
Yep.
But I do think that for a lot of people, wins next week could be big. So that said, Saturday, Team Liquid. What do you think? They went 2-1 in Super Week. Oh, you don't even need to hear that.
Nah,
Does the loss against Golden Guardians mean anything to you?
not too much.
It happens.
I mean, I think we are both staggered, and I think they are good.
And they've got Core JJ back, right?
Yeah. So I think I'm going to play the odds on this one. I think we lose to TL.
I too think we lose against Team Liquid. I think that we've shown that we kind of will rise or fall to meet the level of team we're playing. So I think it won't be a horrendous loss, but I do think it's going to be a loss. I don't think it's going to be like this. It's not going to feel as bad as the Dignitas game felt, but it will be a loss. Sunday, we play against CLG, who's 3-6, and they went 2-1 also during their Super Week, taking down the mighty TSM and EG, and then dropping a game to Immortals.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
I'm going to predict this as I did the first round robin, and that's we need to beat CLG, and not just because they're lower than they're not in the soup, because this is the team that if we are not outperforming, big questions start getting asked.
This is a 9th place team.
9th place team, and it's a team that we sent players to. So I think the only way we lose to CLG, because I think we are, I think we have a higher caliber of players across the board. Clearly, we don't always play to that level, but I think we do have those players. I think the only way we lose to them is if our problems are much greater than even we're aware of currently.
Yeah.
If it persists over the course of a week of focused practice, and even with that week of practice and kind of resetting things, you still can't beat CLG. That's a place that I hope that we're not in. So I'm going with my heart here. I hope we win. We need to.
I'm going with both my heart and my brain, and I think we do win. We're going to be familiar with the way this bot lane plays, obviously. Bot lane seems to be a strength source for CLG. Maybe they're going to be good guys and gift us the win, like Salamander's saying in chat.
A little win trade.
Yeah. So I do think that we're going to go 1-1. We're going to beat CLG. We're going to be sitting at 6-5 with a not bad loss to Team Liquid. And the podcast next week will be me being like, hey, see, things aren't that bad. It's not as bad as you'd think. I mean, watch that game back. We didn't lose that bad. That's going to be me next week.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Fast forward.
But if results are different in the negative direction, we may be starting to hit the actual panic zone. I don't know how many more weeks we can go before it's like, okay, we actually may not even be relevant in playoffs. And
Yeah.
that is a disastrous outcome, not being relevant in playoffs.
Mhm.
If we don't win it, if we don't get to semis or whatever, that's one thing. But if we are not relevant during playoffs, that's a pretty crazy fall from grace. So we'll have to see how it plays out. Maybe in the meantime, we'll get some more interviews, we'll get some more knowledge, we'll get some more content. I don't think it's coming, but maybe we will. Maybe we'll get a 6-man roster update. Who knows? It's not owed to us, but maybe we'll get it anyway.
Yeah.
But there are more questions than answers with the team right now, and that it can't stay that way. You know, things cannot remain that way.
I mean, yeah, one way or the other, we'll trend towards clarity, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Either that we have it or we don't.
What did I call it last week? I called it the spring of
perplexity.
Perplexity. Okay, so thank you. So the spring of perplexity abides, as I said.
Yes. Yeah.
It has continued. May Jaja grant that it does not continue this weekend. Everybody, we appreciate you being here with us. That is our podcast for the week. We will see you this week for Rec League, and we will see you on Monday when we talk about our 1-1. I already gave you a preview of the pod. You know how it goes. Thanks for being with us. As always, we love you and we miss you already.